Let's see what we got here. All right, so this is a speedy intro to PowerShell. 10 minutes just to get you started with everything you need to get moving with PowerShell. I'm Jess Pomfret. My pronouns are she and her, and my contact details are on the slide. If you've got any questions after the session or you want to chat PowerShell, probably find me on Twitter. Otherwise, my email address. All of the slides and demos are up on my GitHub repo in the intro PowerShell repo under jpomfret. So let's get started. What is PowerShell? So PowerShell is a cross-platform task automation solution made up of 3 parts. There's a command line shell, which includes the best features of other shells, like Bash, for example, but deals in .NET objects instead of text, which gives us a lot more flexibility of what we can do with those objects. We've got command line history. We've got tab completion and prediction support with some of the new PS readline modules. It'll actually use AI to predict what you might type next. Which is really cool. We've got alias support. We've got pipeline, which is where we pass objects from one command into another. We'll look at that in a minute. And in-console help, which is really valuable when we're just getting started with PowerShell. But it's not just a shell. It's also a scripting language, and it can be used for the automation of systems, kind of system admin work or database admin work. And it can also be used in CI/CD pipelines to build, test, deploy full solutions. It's extensible, which is where it gets really powerful, in my opinion. We can extend it with functions, we can add in classes, we can just have full scripts, and we can extend it with modules, which is where we're going to go in this session. And great news for Re, we've got built-in support for XML and JSON and CSV right within PowerShell. The final point on this, we're just going to touch on it, is there's a configuration management framework. And if you've heard me talk before, you might have heard me talk about DSC, desired state configuration. That's just where we define our desired state of our infrastructure in this declarative PowerShell language, and then PowerShell makes it so it puts it in that state for us. Now, there are a couple of different versions of PowerShell, so we'll just lay the land and make sure we understand where we are with PowerShell these days. So to begin with, we had Windows PowerShell, and the most common version of that now is 5.1. It's installed by default in every Windows operating system since Windows 7. And Windows Server 2008 R2, and it's even installed by default on Windows Server 2022 in the preview version. The key there is it was Windows PowerShell, and a few years ago we changed to just PowerShell, and the most common version, or the latest version of that right now, is 7.1. And that's a cross-platform PowerShell module. It can be used on Linux, Mac, or Windows, and that's where all the cool, shiny new features are going. We can easily see what version we're running by using the PS version table variable, and you can see here I'm actually running 7.2. It's a preview version of PowerShell. Now, I mentioned that PowerShell was extensible, and one of the ways you can extend it is with modules. And what a PowerShell module is just a self-contained container of scripts. It can be your own scripts that you've compiled into a module for easy use, so you can distribute them or just use them yourself really easily. Or it can be an existing community module that someone else has written all of the code, and you can just use that module. You can use the benefits of it, basically. Really good example of this is DBA tools. And PowerShell Gallery is a central repository for all of this PowerShell content. I can write a module and put it up on the gallery to make it really easy to share with others. And we can see what's out on the gallery by using find module, and I'm going to pass in the DBA tools module as on the name parameter. And this is going to go look on the PowerShell gallery and tell me the information about the latest DBA tools version. We're currently at 1.0.156. That's the latest module. It's out on the PS gallery. And we can pull that down and install it locally for use with install-module, passing in again the name of DBA tools. Once we have it on our laptop ready to use, we can use import module DBA tools to pull it into our local session so that we can use those commands and those functions within our session. It's time for a story. It's Friday afternoon. I have actually no idea what day it is, but it did turn out to be Friday because I just got home from holiday yesterday. But it's Friday afternoon. We're drinking a cup of coffee. We're relaxing. Your boss comes by and he's panicking about something, wants to know when all of your last backups were for all of your SQL servers. Like you've got like 400, 500 instances. It's going to take a really long time to go through Management Studio and find those last backups, compile it into some kind of useful report, and pass on that information just to show that we're covered, we're all backed up, we're good to go. The easiest way for us to learn PowerShell is to to use it in our everyday work, right? If you start integrating it to accomplish tasks that you need to do anyway, you're going to start to learn how to use it and how to find the different commands and how to use those commands to get stuff done. So, and PowerShell wants to help you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is get dash command. That's going to get us any commands that are installed on our local machine that has backup in the name. And you can see there's a ton. I've got a bunch of Azure stuff installed also that all deals with different backup things. But we know we're going to do SQL Server type stuff. We're probably going to go to DBA tools. So if we add the DBA tools, if we pass that in on the module parameter, we'll just get stuff with backup in the name from the DBA tools module. Now, PowerShell commands are named in a verb noun format. The verb is going to tell us the action, which is backup in this example, or copy. And the noun is going to tell us the entity that'll be affected. So this will be a backup for a computer certificate or a backup for a database. Now we want to get information. So it's probably going to be one of these get commands down here. And if we look through them, we've got AG backup history, backup devices, get DBA last backup. That sounds already what we probably want in this example. One other thing to mention, the DBA tools team. Now get command is just PowerShell command, but the DBA tools team have added find DBA command, which will look through all of the command-based help for that same pattern that you pass in. So you'll notice I get a lot more. These are finding things where backup is just mentioned somewhere in the help. These commands do something to do with backup. So you can find things more easily if you're trying to search for the word, but it might not be in the name of the commandlet. Then finally, we have get help. So get help is going to take the command that we found that we think we want to use, and it will tell us exactly how to use it. So if we do get help for get DBA last backup, it's going to pull that in console help and display it. We get a bit of information about the name, the synopsis, some information on the syntax, and a bit of a description. But my favorite parameter here is the show window parameter. And what that does, if it pops up in the right place, is it pops up a help window that you can keep. It's totally separate from my PowerShell console. You can see it's already returned and is ready for the next command. But it's got all of the help, and we can search through this for certain words. We can scroll down and see detailed descriptions of the parameters. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see we've got examples. Now, these are just usually the first one is the simplest way to use this command. And you can see we're just going to call get DBA last backup and pass in a SQL instance. And it's going to return a custom object with some properties that we care about. So we'll copy that. We'll paste it in here, and we'll use my local Docker container. And you can see that we've got the exact information we care about, right? We've got the SQL instance. We've got the database name, and then we've got the last backup information. But it's not very easy to read here, right? If I hit 400 instances, I'm going to get a really long pane of results. And that's where we can use this pipeline. So if I take that and I use the pipeline symbol and I pipe it, I can do format table, which will just put it in a table. Now I've lost some columns because I don't have the real estate. So I could use select object to get just specific columns, or I can do export CSV and give it a name of backups.csv, and it'll take that output and just throw it straight into a CSV. If I open that CSV, it'll open in Excel, and you can see I've got all of the data from that first machine. And the data's here, right? It's not in a great format, but it is here, and it is usable as a report. As we already talked about, PowerShell is extensible, right? And we've got all these modules available on the gallery. One of the ones we can use is import Excel. If you didn't catch Mikey's session earlier, I would recommend the recording on that, because that's going to tell you exactly how I built this report. But if I look here, I've got a little Excel report script. Oh, I can't find the file. I already cleaned it up. I was too ahead of the game. But what that's going to do is it's going to query 2 of my instances on my local machine, and it's going to format the spreadsheet. It's named the tab down here. It's put it in a table, and it's added conditional formatting. So now you can clearly see that I've got some problems here, right? Database admin hasn't had any kind of backup. Neither is my important AppDB. But this is a really easy way of going and querying as many instances as you have, grabbing that information and throwing it into a spreadsheet. This would have taken a long time to create if we did it through Management Studio. Just to wrap up, thanks for joining me. I hope there are 3 things you take away from this session. Find module to get stuff, to find what you might need on the gallery. get command to find the commands that will do the tasks you need, and then get help to work out how you're going to use them and get some good examples. Again, my contact information is on the screen. If you have any questions or you want to chat about PowerShell, please do hit me up. We're at just over 10 minutes, so I will pass back to you, Ben. Thanks again for having me, and thanks for joining.